All right, let's do it. So I reached out to you because I saw one of like this clip of you. I think it was in front of some lobbyist or something along those lines, just talking about some of the issues that a lot of parents, not just fathers, but fathers and mothers experience in the realm of parental alienation and the issues that come with that, and a lot of the ways that people nowadays are kind of abusing the system to really, in my perspective, to do really evil things to not only the other parent but to these children as well. And I just saw you talking about that. And for me, with what I do, I run men's organization where we help guys with a lot of the psychological aspects and leadership aspects of becoming better men and fixing their relationship issues. And what you're doing and fighting for is something that I see a lot of our guys dealing with right now. I kind of play in what I would call the deep end of the pool. So it's the worst of the situations for a lot of these guys. So I don't necessarily think it's a super common problem percentage wise, but it's still a high number of guys that I'm seeing come in and explain these issues where people are just weaponizing the legal system to completely destroy them, like financially, spiritually, their identity, their careers. All of these things are happening. So thanks for kind of coming to hang with me and chat about this subject because I'm really interested as far as how did you get involved in this and what is it that you see going on nowadays that that men need to be aware of in this fight?
Yeah, so that's quite a few questions because how did I get involved in this? I went through family court for about 16 years, spent about $700,000 just being able to be in my children's life, and I have joint custody. They were never able to take it. The problem is that the system, the way it works right now, is it's not a very good system to be in. It can be weaponized very quickly by either gender, doesn't matter now. The games are out there, they can be played, and until you change the way it works, then it's going to keep happening. And that's the problem that we're seeing today. And when I went through the system, I learned criminal law, constitutional law, and family law. And I found that every time I was in there in the family court, it's funny that they say, lawyers say that they practice law, right? Every one of them say they practice law with your money. You live the consequences of whatever they're practicing, whether they're on point or not on point, or if they know your case or not know your case. You know your case better than anybody. If I were to change one thing that I would change now, that looking back then, is I would have taken $3,000 of that retainer for any attorney, and you can go get a paralegal's license in any state right now, in any college online. It takes probably about 3 months, but it's about $3,000. I definitely would have done that, and I would have been out of the system a long time before this. The system is weaponized there to either you pay to play, and then when you run out of money, you have no other choice but to walk away or go into debt. Then your child doesn't have a home to come to because even if they did, you're going to spend all your time trying to pay your bills and you're going to be at work. And so I went to about 40 something states and we talked to senators, House reps talking about this before we came out with the time, before I came out with the time taking time back and talked to them about the problem. And we even had constituents in every state meet us at their capital to go in and talk to, their senators and House reps, and we went with them to talk about the problem. When we did that, we figured out that the senators and House reps looked at us like they had no idea what we're talking about because they came from nuclear families. They've never experienced family court, and the only thing that they hear from the lobbyist, which is the of the family law family law groups and lawyers, is that it runs fine. There is no issues. There's massive issues. So nobody was able to really articulate what the solutions were. And every time I went into all of these messaging groups and, these advocacy groups, and it just seemed like it was an echo chamber. Everybody kept saying, this is a problem, but nobody had a solution for it. So when I did the time taken, time back bill, I looked at what the problems were with parental alienation, where it started, and how it could start. And most of the time, it started either by a false allegation, and you were able to take that child away, or interference with child custody. You've already been to family court, you got your custody order, but nobody's following it. And so I backtracked that. How could I stop that from happening? And so I came out with the time taken, time back bill, and it went through Texas, unanimous, bipartisan the first time, and the governor signed off on it. And it protects 30 million Texans now. The crazy part is I went through 43 silver bullets. When that bill came out, my ex stopped making false allegations and started interfering with my child custody. So then I had to write the three strikes law to stop that. And so that's where the bills were born.
So explain. So the first bill was it primary handled which problem?
Yeah, so the time taken, time back bill, it stops false allegations, but it doesn't stop a real allegation.
How
And
can you know that up front? Like what? Yeah, this is it's so confusing to me because it's like,
yeah,
all right, is there a in my mind it's always like there has to be some kind of penalty for these false allegations because without that you can just put as many as you want in and even like somewhat anonymously
yep,
in a different way. If you don't even need a lawyer to do it
no.
anymore. Like one of the guys that is in my group right now, his ex-wife just used ChatGPT to come up with all of these things and then give them to the court and then send the order to an old address of his and say, "Hey, time's up. I sent it to his address, judge." And the judge is like,
Default.
"Well, he must be a bad person if all these things you're saying are true." And now he's at basically at a point where it's like, "All right, now I have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to in the next week come up with an answer for this hundreds of things that are complete nonsense." And I'm just like, how is this even possible?
He can file a general denial, and then when he goes in there, it's their burden of proof to prove those things, even though they can say it, and he has to go get an attorney, weaponize it, whatever, but it's their burden of proof. None of those things are real. He can just get a general denial, file it, that way it's on the record, and then go in and just tell the judge, they're the ones that made the allegations. They have to prove it. I don't have to not prove it. It's up to them to prove, and then I'll disprove each allegation that they're saying after they say how they can prove it. So,
A lot of the guys, like you mentioned before, we allow the lawyers to make all, we're depending on the lawyers to understand everything that's going on. And like you said, oftentimes one wrong decision, I have seen this before, just one wrong decision sets you down this path where it's like there's no coming back from this.
right. And then he can void the order. He can do all kinds of stuff. That's what I do on my website. It's robertgarza.us. So I have on there, if somebody needs help in their case, they can call me. There's 30-minute, 1 hour sessions, whatever they want to do. And I help them with their cases, kind of like you're saying, because a lot of attorneys don't understand high conflict divorces, and they're getting more common now, especially false allegations. If you're not a criminal attorney and you're just moseying along in family court, and then now they're weaponizing because nobody's prosecuting for perjury, and that's where the big issue comes from. If they would just do that, we wouldn't have a lot of these bills that needed to be done, but they don't prosecute for perjury in family court. They do in criminal court. I've tried to research all over the nation, and I can't find one case where a judge has penalized someone for perjury and threw them in jail. In the last 15 years, I can't find one.
All right, so coming back, your bill, how does it stop the false allegations then?
Yeah, so it disincentivizes it. So whenever you go through a protective order, restraining order, a false one, and there is no finding of abuse or neglect, whenever they return the child, they shall return the time. And the same type of time, same exact amount of time. Usually, what most of these hijackings are from, they do it right before Christmas, Thanksgiving, a big holiday that or spring break, a big gap of time. Because if you do it, like, let's just say Thanksgiving, that's in November, the end of November. Christmas is right around the corner. Courts are already filled up. You take someone's Thanksgiving, even by Christmas, you're not going to get back into that court. So now you've just taken November, December, January is still New Year's. You can't get back in there until about February because of all the backup to court, even if they prove that allegation false. So it's called holiday hijacking. I coined the term because it's a big line of attorneys outside of the courthouse ready to file. And think about it this way. And this is why I try, and because I've passed laws in multiple states, I'm able to train judges and go to continuing law education because I drafted the law. I tell them, I'm like, look, you have to really look at when are these people coming in? If they've had the child 6, 7 days before dropping the child off and it's the other parent's weekend, why are they waiting until 5 o'clock before, or even at 3 o'clock, right before that child's supposed to be getting out of school, before they file this protective order, restraining order? They've had several days with the child before, and now it's an emergency? No, absolutely not. And so then if something clicks in their head, they're like, oh, wow, I guess they did have the child before then. Yeah, well, I guess we have to look at, did the parent have the child? And if so, for how long before this supposed emergency protective order, restraining order? It's a no-brainer, but they don't look at it. So my time taken, time back, whenever somebody makes a false allegation, whenever there is no finding of abuse or neglect, when you return the child, you shall return the time. And that disincentivizes making a false allegation, but not a real allegation.
So basically, any time that is taken from the other parent
Mhm.
is then given back to that parent over like X amount all at once or however they want, basically.
So if you think about it, so let's just say somebody got a protective order, restraining order on me. The investigation took 30 days. Then it took another 30 days to get into court. That's 60 days that I lost time, but not real 60 days because it was every first, third, and fifth weekend.
Mm.
Now it's only 3 weekends the first month, 3 weekends the next month. So that's 6 weekends that I missed. Plus, if I had a midweek possession, so that would be 8 more days of midweek possession. Now, when you return the child, you get one more day of weekend. So if you have Thursday, so now you have Wednesdays and Thursdays until those 8 days are made up. Then on the weekends, you have every weekend until those 6 weekends are made up. So now you have every first, second, third, fourth, fifth, first, second, third, fourth, fifth until they're made up. That child is still seeing both parents. So you're not just taking and you're still
Right.
seeing the child, both parents are. You're not weaponizing it that way.
You're not going to the opposite extreme to do
Correct.
even further damage to the child.
Correct. And that's why I tell people if you're against this bill, you don't understand it. And once I explain that, they think you're just taking the child that's been gone for 60 days and giving them to the other parent for 60 days. That's not how it works.
Mm.
That wasn't your parenting time.
What do you see? I mean, in terms of damage to the child, what is commonly being done by the parent who is weaponizing this in the terms of, alienating them from the other? How do they go about this? What are the strategies? What happens that causes them to maybe start to disconnect from that other parent?
So it usually takes about 30 days to have a child give up. When I was in front of a judiciary committee, they were asking, well, how can a parent, convince a child that something happened that never did? I'm like, well, how did that parent teach him about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy? They were like, oh my gosh, we never thought of it. And I'm like, exactly. So if I wanted to brainwash a child or do anything like that, when you take that child away from another parent, it's hard on. Have you ever had a child taken away?
No, I couldn't imagine.
Okay.
No.
So it's like you're grieving the loss of a living child, like the child is dead. Even though it's with the other parent, everyone's like, well, they're with their mom or their dad, so why are you so upset? it's a loss that I can't tell you other than telling you that. It literally feels like they're dead. And you can't talk to them, you can't check on them, you can't do anything because you have a protective order, restraining order on you for however long. Then in your own head, does this child think that you abuse them, bruise them, hurt them, whatever the allegation is? So to you, that child's going to think this until they can talk to you again. Now, the crazy part is, so it's psychological abuse, it's mental abuse, it's all kinds, it's the worst form of abuse that you can do. The child has to let go of that and give up and take that narrative because they can't understand that, unless they're older or whatever, but if you have one person telling you that, your dad or mom hit me or beat me and that's why you can't see them, or they beat you even worse, and you just don't remember it, or they try to convince them that they remember it, um, they have to take that narrative because the hate to hate someone feels better than missing them or anything like that, or to say that they abandoned you or whatever. And so that's why that narrative sticks so well with alienation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's so much easier to hate people than it is to miss them, to grieve them, to be in that position. And for a child, yeah, they don't know any different at
You
all
know,
than what's being told.
I one of my stepdaughter's friends were here, and this was a couple of years ago, but I think she was 16, and my daughter had went to the store, and her friend came over, and she was asking, like all the stuff about family court and stuff, and I was telling her, and she was like, well, why would a child, think that this happened if it really didn't? I'm like, oh, I was like, I forgot to tell you, your boyfriend came over the other day and he was with a girl. Did my daughter tell you? And she was like, what girl? And I was just like, I don't know, it was some blonde. And I thought y'all were broken up because they were kissing and making out. And she was like, oh my God. She started shaking and her eyes started watering. I'm like, wait, wait. I was like, stop. I was like, I'm just kidding with you. And she was like, why would you do that? And she started wiping her tears off and stuff. And she was like grabbing her phone to call the guy. I'm like, this is what I was talking about when you said, why would someone think that? I was like, you're almost a grown adult and you're a teenager and I'm not even your parent. And you believed what I just told you until you could talk to your boyfriend. You're going to be mad, sad, angry. And if you couldn't get a hold of him right now, you would be even more irate. This is what my daughters went through every time she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I had no idea. But now that just made it solidify for her whenever I did that, because until she could talk to somebody, you're going to go crazy in your own head. And it's easier for her to hate that person if she could never get a hold of him and same way with us, until our daughters or whatever could talk to, or sons could talk to us, they have to take that narrative because that's the only narrative they have.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget what it's like to be a child. It's so easy to take for granted our ability as adults to logically think about things. And as children, all adults are authority figures to children.
Hmm.
All adults, whether it's our parents, friends, especially if there's some sort of relationship that's already present. So if my uncle tells anything to my daughters, they're believing it.
Yep.
They're very easy to manipulate,
Yep.
unfortunately. So man, I can see how that can go down a dark path. Is there a specific way to like rehabilitate that relationship with the children? Like, is your relationship with your children better now and like healthy and intact, or is there still some remnants of that time that affect it?
So if you can actually alienate a child and have enough time with them, and that's where my bills protect it, is because it's only if you can steal a massive amount of time to be able to brainwash or convince the child. Once they're convinced, that's the issue. You can repair that parental bond, but I said this in probably the thing that you're talking about. It's like shattering a vase or glass and putting it back together. You still have all those fractures in it and those cracks and whatever else. It never goes back 100%. And it's sad because the person that does this to them is the parent that they trust. Now, when they find out the truth, and they do, it breaks the trust that they have with the other parent that they trusted. And that's what they don't look at. And then it becomes a theme throughout their life that whoever they date, they really don't trust because the trust was supposed to be there from their parents that love the child unconditionally and found out that it was all false. And then the other one did, but there's still cracks in that relationship.
Yeah, yeah, these are what we call with our guys as we're helping them go through grieving processes and change belief systems. It's a default, it becomes a default setting from your childhood
Yeah.
of this is my relationship with the most important people in my life, the most of the people that I love the most and they love me the most. It's it's challenging. It's challenging for people to go in there and rewire those things. It's possible, but people have to be very aware of it and want to change it. Most people aren't even aware of the damage that these types of situations cause them in those scenarios. And then they grow into adulthood. And like you said, all of their relationships are a mess and they can't figure out why. They
Hmm.
can't figure out why do these patterns and behaviors keep happening. It's like because you have something in here that you believe, whether it's a subconscious belief likely that you don't even know is there, that was taught to you from those experiences or directly by the parent that you're holding on to, and it's dictating all of the actions and the behaviors and the patterns that you're seeing in these adult relationships. And these are the generational curses. Like that's what happens to all of us. All of us are given these burdens in one way or another. But man, coming from this perspective where you're like they the parent shatters the trust of the actually trustworthy parent, and then the truth comes out and it shatters their trust with the only one that they did trust. So now what do they have?
So I tell people all the time, is there anything that you can think of that breaks five of the Ten Commandments at once?
I have to think. I have to give some serious thought about that, but yeah,
Hardly anything does,
nothing comes to mind.
but parental alienation does. Honor your father and your mother. The parental alienation teaches a child to reject or dishonor a parent by intentionally damaging that bond. Thou shalt not murder. While it's not physical homicide, parental alienation inflicts severe psychological harm that can permanently damage a child's identity and as well as their well-being. Thou shalt not steal. Parent alienation robs children and parents of irreplaceable time, love, memories, and relationship. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Alienation relies on false narratives told to the children, courts, and others about the targeted parent. Thou shalt not covet. Alienation seeks exclusive control over a child's loyalty, affection, treating the child as a possession. It breaks all and think about this. There's 10 commandments. It breaks half of them at once. A mom and father are half of that child each.
This is why when I look at these scenarios, these is one of the only scenarios that I see out there where I see it as true evil when someone does something like this. It's real because you're taking how do you define evil? Well, I think you take something good, the love of a child and the relationship of a child and a father and his love for that child, and you weaponize it to destroy him, to destroy them both. And I just can't wrap my head around how somebody with any type of moral compass can go down the steps and the process of doing that to people that they at some point claim to love.
So I'm sitting here writing because when I was talking about the parental alienation, you know how they don't want you to believe that it exists or the name, right? They don't want to define it. It just clicked with me. I'm going to think about how to word this, but it just came to me. I'm writing it down right now. But basically, the same thing. How do I put this together? I'm gonna think about this, and it's gonna be great. But basically, the same way that they don't want you to know that the devil exists. So I'm gonna connect those two, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, the greatest lie ever told.
Exactly.
Yeah, the greatest deceit he ever
Mhm.
did was to convince everybody that he doesn't exist.
Yep. And I'm gonna tie that to them doing this with parental alienation. Yep.
Yes. What is that? I didn't know that. So there's this resistance to define the term or put a definition on essentially what's happening.
Yeah, so it makes sense. The name makes sense, everything. You're alienating a parent. Like they don't want to put that name out there. They're like, "Oh, it's junk science. It doesn't exist, blah blah blah." Like, no, it exists. They're like, "Well, you can't measure it, whatever." It's like, "Well, how can you measure love? You can't." But it exists. But no, but because this guy came up with the name a long time ago, they keep trying to say it, they don't want to accept it. And so, I mean, it's just crazy what they've been able to teach, these lobbyists go and teach these senators and these House reps about, well, it really doesn't exist. And it's like, it's not defined anywhere, so it's not in the DSM. So you have a bunch of people trying to um get the term defined in the DSM.
What is DSM?
It's where they put all of the terms for,
Like legal jargon, like those
yeah, for
terms?
like mental abuse and stuff like that.
Okay.
Everything's defined in there, a disorder, like it's a
I
mental
got
disorder. Yeah.
understood. So these like what's the motivation that they have to discredit this? Is it just because this is such a giant money-making machine for that system, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so if you look at like DV groups, domestic violence groups, they get their money from VAWA, which is Violence Against Women's Act. Violence Against Women's Act has been reformed in the last few years to include even men, but the name still stayed the same. But there's no shelters for men because they're really not giving the money out for men. They're giving it for women. And so they need customers. The sad part is these false allegations have heightened that funding a lot because in Texas, there's groups of attorneys that if there's abuse in the relationship, the VAWA money can be gotten to fund their legal fees. So we've had people call up there, and I had somebody call and they were like, I need an attorney. And she was like, okay, well, was there any violence in your, was he abusive or anything? And the person on the phone was like, or I'm sorry, my person was like, no, there was no abuse. And she was like, okay, well, so there was no physical, no nothing. She was like, no, not at all. Okay, did he ever raise his voice at you? And she was like, well, yeah. She was like, okay, we can help you. That's violence. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And she was like, well, and my person even said, well, I also raised my voice at him. She was like, but that doesn't matter. She was like, if he was abusive towards you and raising your voice is actually abuse in our terms, and so we can give you an attorney. Now, think about this. That's another check mark that there was a man abusive to a woman, even though it's both, right?
So does that add to the statistics
Yep.
of, oh my
That's where they
gosh.
get the statistics because they have these people that they're helping and saying, look, we've screened them, and now look at all these men that are abusive whenever they're not actually telling people that it's actually, you can't be the victim and the perpetrator at the same time, and that's basically what they're doing.
So it's not even that there's not this there's not this huge agenda against men. It's just people that want to make money. And they're like, there's this pot
That
of
is.
money. It's free money for us. This is
Yep.
free money. If we can get them to tell us he was abusive in any way, now they don't need to pay us. We just grab from this fund and then we add to the statistics and they keep growing this fund the bigger the issue is. But
Right.
they're creating the issue.
Correct. Now, I wrote this and I was at a domestic violence, sorry, not a domestic violence thing. I was in Colorado and they were hearing one of my bills called the Peace Act. And basically what it was is it was a new start at equality, which is a 50-50 bill, shared parenting bill. The legislators did not want anything to do with 50-50 name in the bill. They didn't want anything to do with shared parenting in the bill. So I called it the Peace Act. And what ended up happening, there was about 100 people came to testify on the bill. Most of them were for the bill, but there was about, I don't know, maybe 35 that were from the domestic violence groups testifying against the bill. After about half of the day, I kept hearing the same resonance over and over saying that I couldn't get my evidence in, the judge just disregarded it, and my child went with the abuser. Now, I asked the senators and House reps that were on this committee after about half of this was over, and I said, next people that keep getting up there and say this, can you ask them further questions about it? Like, um, did they even submit evidence? And if so, were they not able to get it in, or did the judge see it? Because there's two different things here. If the judge saw it and disregarded it, or if they couldn't get it in, that's two different things. So they were asking them, and sure enough, none of these people have ever had 50-50, just so you know. So they're arguing over something that they've never had. That's one. The second thing is that every litigant that they asked about that was on the domestic violence side said that they couldn't get their evidence in. And when they pressed it further, it's a procedural failure in our family court. So if I was trying to get my evidence in and I'm like, here's all the pictures, Your Honor, here's my phone, here's all the text messages, opposing counsel just has to say I object. Authenticity. Now the burden's on me to say all these things like a set of predicate and get the evidence in. That was the failure of all these domestic violence people. It was a procedural failure in our judicial system to get that evidence in. That's why they couldn't get their evidence in because the judge couldn't weigh it on the scale because they objected to it and they didn't know how to get it in. Then I had the bar there that was there, and she was saying that 75% of Colorado divorces are pro se. That's where the failure is. It's a procedural failure, not a 50-50 failure. And so it's not a custody issue, it's a procedural failure on their part. So when I thought about this, I was like, oh my gosh, I can explain to these domestic violence groups, we don't need to change the 50-50 should be a started equality. You started equality. But where they're failing, the system is failing them is this evidentiary thing. And so I went to go talk to them. They didn't want to hear anything of it. Zero. They don't want to fix it. So I came up with a quote that says, you cannot stand with domestic violence survivors while preserving custody defaults that enable the abuse by turning parents into adversaries. So you want to keep a system there that starts as adversaries rather than start at equality and let the chips fall where they may. And you can't have this VAWA money for domestic violence if you don't have customers.
Yeah, I see that from what you've explained. And I don't quite understand why the standard isn't, all right, we start at 50-50. Like why is that not the case everywhere? Why is it okay, they're going to get this much time and they're going to get this much time and then this person is going to pay all of this money to have less time because now they need no more money because they have more time with the children. Like that just thinking about that logically just makes no sense to me at all.
And so nobody's been able, that I know of, to relay it to the senators and House reps in a way that they can understand it very quickly. And so it took me a while, but now I get it. And so what I tell them is that it's your responsibility to give a guideline to the judicial system to say where they start. And what y'all did about 30 years ago is that you drew a line in the sand and said, look, judges, you have all this discretion, but don't go below this standard. And we're going to call it standard possession. Standard possession was never meant to be a starting point. It was never meant to be the ceiling. It was a line in the sand to tell the judges, you cannot go below this unless there's abuse or neglect. Somehow, that line in the sand does not go below became the starting point and also the ceiling, and you have to fight to get to 50-50. So explaining that to legislators, it blows their mind. They're like, oh my gosh, I get it. But when I say it's your responsibility now to set the guideline to say, judges, you need to start at 50-50, go below it. But right now, if you're not starting at 50-50, where are you starting from? And if you are starting at 50-50, then put it in writing. Nobody has an argument to it. Not the domestic violence people, not the legislators. When you explain it like that, it blows their mind.
Yeah, the common phrase that I hear a lot of my guys say is like, I have to pay these people so that I'm allowed to be a father. I have to
Not,
pay just to get 50-50 custody.
yeah,
You have
what
to
you already
fight
had.
for it. Yes.
Now here's another thing that your listeners should understand too. If you don't have supervised visitations, the court has already deemed you a fit parent.
So what is that like that piece of information? All right, if I have unsupervised,
Hmm?
right, not visitation, but time with my children,
Yeah.
right? That means I'm a fit parent just by that piece of information.
Yep. That means you are equal to the other person already, that the court has not found anything to take you below standard, I mean, 50-50. But that's what happens is they start at standard for most, someone's a primary and one's the conservator and non-conservator. And that's where the issues are coming from. Now, even if you ask a judge, where do you start if you're not starting at 50-50? They always tell you, well, we do start at 50-50. Okay, so if that's the case, then let's just make it official, legislators. If that's where they're telling you that they start at, let's just put it in writing and do a new start at equality. Now, they can go below that standard. And here's the thing is, so two things on the 50-50 thing. The law attorneys and judges want you to think that um, they have discretion. They're spinning the 50-50 thing is that you automatically get 50-50. That's not what my bill says or any other 50-50 bill says. It says that you start the custody at 50-50 and go down from there. You don't automatically just get 50-50. If there's other things, a willing parent, able to do it parent. So if you're a firefighter, more likely you can't have 50-50 or a doctor that's on call because, so even though you're a fit parent, willing to do it parent, you're not able to do it. So you have to go below that. Now, what they want you to think is that,
I have a question on
yeah,
this. How do they decide, right? I don't remember the term you use, but I would think like custodial and
mhm.
non-custodial parent. how do they determine who starts up here and who and who is here? Because for my guys, they're always here, right?
Yeah.
So like, how is that decision made?
So a lot of people say whoever files first.
That's how it's made.
Because think about it. If I file for custody and my ex doesn't what do you call it? File also, then they can only hear my motion because I'm the one that filed the lawsuit. If they don't countersue me, then the only thing the judge can hear is what I put in writing. Now, whether she gives it to me or not is two different things. But because I'm the one filed for the lawsuit and asked for primary or whatever, that's the only thing that the judge, he or she, can decide on. Because they didn't counterfile, that's the only thing that's on the board. That's the only thing that they can go by is what I'm asking for.
That's all the
So,
information that they have to use to make their decision. So
right.
what's the all right, if a guy is in a position where he gets sued, right,
Mhm.
for custody, what's the first step he should take?
Counterfile.
Counterfile
Correct.
immediately.
Yep.
Okay.
Now that's where the fighting starts too, right? Because then you're like, this one's asking for primary, this one's asking for primary. Now it's on.
And
Now you
now it's also very expensive at
correct.
this point.
Now their courts are like, okay, you know what? You both want primary. Now we're gonna have to have my friend Tom, that's the home study. Here you go, Tom. Here's you some money. Go play with these parents. You have children? Okay. My friend Jane over here is the guardian ad litem. I'm gonna give her to y'all too. You both pay half. And you know what? I think y'all are both saying that y'all are both crazy, so we're gonna get my friend over here, Jeff, that's psych eval. And now all their friends are paid. And now it's not the judge's headache to figure out who's crazy and who's whatever.
These people make the decision. The guardian ad litem,
Yes.
my mom is a guardian ad litem.
Yep.
Like so they're heavily involved in like giving the information to the judge and like, here's what I see. Here's what I
Yep.
see at this home. Here's what I see
Mhm.
at this home. Like I've done all this. Here's what I'm hearing from the child.
Yep. Now they overstep their boundaries because by this time you're already having you have temporary orders, you're paying child support, you're paying half the guardian ad litem, you're paying your
Mhm.
attorney, half the psych eval, half the home study, and you're trying to figure it out now. So you tell the guardian ad litem, hey, I know we have a hearing coming up, but I can't pay you right now. Do you think the guardian ad litem is going to be on your side? And I'm saying this because I've lived it. I've spent $700,000.
A vast majority of men don't have anywhere near that to fight these battles.
Correct. And I don't either now. I'm pro se. My ex just filed a lawsuit on me about a year ago, and I went to the door and, well, I mean, look at this. So I went to the door. Imagine them saying, "You're served. This is one lawsuit, one." And so I went and argued it, and I think about 30 minutes later, I won because it was a frivolous lawsuit. But if I would have had an attorney go through that, it would have cost me $20,000 just to go through it.
That's what my guys are experiencing.
Yep.
It's a binder this thick, and they have to go through each one, and then they have to ask you, did this happen? No, that
Yep.
never. Okay, next one. And we're paying them $500 an hour minimum,
Yep.
so
That's what I was
really
saying. Paralegal, spend $3,000, take 3 months off of whatever you're doing, and at night, you can do it at night. Go to work, spend 3 months, and go get your kids back.
$3,000 versus 700,000.
Correct. I would have absolutely, and that you have that information because being a paralegal doesn't make you a lawyer, but it teaches you, it introduces you to law, it introduces you how to file, it introduces you how to space it, how how the forms need to be, where to get the forms. It gives you a whole immersion into family law that your lawyer never even explained.
It's really it really would have been the difference between 3,000 and $700,000. That big of a difference.
Oh yeah, I could have done it. Think about what I've done so far. I
Yeah.
just wrote 500 bills, 50 states, that's 10 bills per state, to stop this nonsense in family court. Literally, I'm rewriting the laws that the judges and lawyers go by. I'm not an attorney.
What is your background? Like what were you doing?
So I had a couple of businesses. I used to be a high-end jewelry designer and also classic cars. So,
Hmm.
like, I had a classic car business. I had a classic car museum, and all those cars kept going away as attorneys were like with their hand out, the guardian ad litem, the home study, the psyche valve, the parent facilitator. Man, I ran the whole gamut, and now
Yeah.
it's all gone.
Yeah.
So now I have my kids. Oh, and that's the other thing too, is whenever someone goes through parental alienation, I was going to explain this earlier. When you get your kids back, because mine were alienated, they were gone for about 3 months. That I didn't see them at all, and they were kicking, screaming. Had to call the cops to come intervene to get them in my car. I took them to the zoo, and I didn't tell them where we were going. We had some of our greatest childhood memories at the zoo, at the arboretum. So I took them to the zoo. We started walking through, and my daughters were like, "Oh my gosh, do you remember that, the camel spit on us or whatever, right? Like something, whatever." They were so immersed in what was going on, their own childhood memories flooded a lot of the alienation within 2 hours. It was amazing to see. And so I tell people and try to get this out there, if you've had time with your children, take them to places that they had childhood memories at, and it will rewrite over a lot of it. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Don't talk about the alien, don't talk about the other parent. In fact, that makes it 10 times worse. Have other people around you. Your children seeing how other people treat you is how they will treat you. All they have is what the other parent has shown them to treat you like. If you try telling them to treat you a certain way, it's going to backfire on you. 100%. You have to have other people that they respect to show the respect to you. And another way to do it is go to their school, have lunch with them if they're in preschool or whatever. That way, it shows them that the teachers they respect see them respecting you will automatically do that and their friends.
That's such great insight. Because we always, oftentimes, when we're talking about parenting, one of the mistakes that we see a lot of guys make is they stay in these relationships way too
Mhm.
long, right? A lot, especially the guys that I work with, like the really nice guys, they stay way too long. They're really bad at ending these things. And they think that they are keeping their family together. That's
Mhm.
the message that they play over and over again in their heads. And what you're actually doing is you're setting the example to your children as far as what a relationship looks like.
Yep.
You're showing them how a husband treats a wife and how a wife treats a husband, vice versa. And you're teaching them this is the standard. And without even knowing it, they're going to carry that through and they're going to treat you the way mom treats you. And
Right.
that is such great insight. Have people around you because you're right. Without other people, teaching them like this is how we treat your father, this is
Yep.
how we respect him, this is how we talk to him. How else they're not going to take it well from your demands,
Nope.
your your dictatorship. That's going to make things even worse
Mhm.
because now you're just confirming everything that mom was saying. Dad's an asshole, dad's a dick, dad is this terrible authority figure and we need him out of our lives. What else do you see in terms of just the relationship dynamics with your girls and how you were able to repair that? What other pieces of information would you give to the guys as they're going through a battle like this?
Yep. So I've never read a parental alienation book in my life, not one. And I've lived it. I don't need a book to tell me about it. So, another thing that I do with like my teenager, And just so you know, even if you're going through parental alienation and you fix it or anything else, teenagers normally separate anyway. When you're a teenager, did you want to be around your parents 24/7? Absolutely not. So just understand that. So with it, it may not be alienation also. They just need their space. Think about when you're a teenager. Now, so when my teenager comes over and there's a transition period, because I know that all of your audience sees this when they exchange, that kid literally almost changes into someone else. Even before, even if it's 20 minutes before you're gonna go drop them off, they start not having fun. They kind of regress a little bit and whatever else. So that's normal. Nothing against whatever. They're just trying to get in their headspace, like get ready for this. And so when my child comes over, they have a lot of homework now because they're in high school, and this is going to be her last year. My other one just graduated and she's in college, but this one that comes over, she has a lot of homework, and I'm like, look, as soon as she comes over, I'm like, before you go up there, you do whatever you want, but you need to beat me at no first. And she's like, okay. So then we start playing, and one game turns into like three or four. And then she's like, okay, I really gotta go because, but that breaks the ice of, like, hey, what did you do today at school? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're so involved in this game, and then all that other stuff comes naturally. So you're not forcing a conversation, but you make it fun that they have to beat you first to go get on your game, go do whatever you want, but beat me, but you have to beat me first, and I'll leave you alone until dinner, right? So now she comes over, she's like, "Where's the Uno?" Like, she looks for it now. And so you have to think outside the box because these alienators are really good. And the crazy part is they probably read these books, these parental alienation books, and what do you call it?
You
Re-engineered
reverse
it.
engineered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And like, okay, this is how it works. And then they figured it out. So somebody has to put out there how to fix this. And so those are my ways, and that will happen very fast. Like you'll see a big difference in those two things. And don't talk about it whatsoever. And if you need someone to talk about it, have your wife, your new wife or your new girlfriend or someone else, but not you. And the child always looks for behaviors. So if one parent, the alienator, told the child that you're always abusive and you raise your voice, or like they look when you raise your voice, it triggers them into that defense mode. Like, oh my gosh, see there it is. Mom was right, dad was right. You raised your voice. You're abusive. You cannot be yourself really. I always say try to be yourself, but you can't do that. You almost have to go way 10 steps below that to be extra normal or extra whatever because you can't let them see that. And if they do, it triggers them. So give them a safe place. As soon as they feel you're safe, they'll let go a little bit. And I use this all the time, and I think your listeners will get it. Imagine if, and I hate using this because people are going to do it, but you understand it. Imagine I know you're about to go to the beach, right, with your child, and I'm the alienator. I'm gonna have them watch Jaws. How happy are they gonna be to go with you to the beach? That's how
Like a
easy it is.
little kid. Yeah. Not a,
Yeah, they ain't going near that water. And that's the type of crap that alienators do. But knowing that that person has told this person that you're Jaws, basically, right? So they're not wanting to go near the water, and you are the water. And so you have to understand that you have to make them feel safe because of what they've experienced. So if you think of that analogy, that this alienator has just done this to this child, you are that water. You have to make them feel safe in everything that you're doing. So be patient with them. Don't explode. Don't question. Don't whatever. Just be normal. Real calm water. So,
it's a challenge for a lot of these guys because so often they just feel like they have to give up
no,
because
don't ever give up.
they get to the point where they're complete, where they exhaust all the resources, like you said, and they're like, what else can I do? And this is why for me, as I've encountered this enough with the guys now where I just started searching for like people like you. I was like, because I'm not gonna go make laws. That's not what I do. That's not my thing. That takes tremendous amounts of time and energy. That's not my calling. But I started seeing people like you and Mark Ludwig and some other guys who are like out there doing that. And I just have to tell you, like, I honor you and appreciate what you're doing so much because it is so needed right now. The pain and the destruction that this is causing men and women and children is immeasurable. The damage that these people who are alienating the kids are doing. And I know that this cannot be easy. I know that you're probably not celebrated a lot of the places that you go and even demonized by a lot of people because you're standing up for what you believe in. And I just want to say, like, props to you, honor you, huge honor to you, because I know it's been a fight, and you're a warrior, man. You're a full on warrior leading the charge for this fight because there's not a lot of people out there doing what you're doing.
Thank you. It's not been easy, but I knew even I have my kids. Like, there's nothing. I've already changed the law in Texas. We've changed several laws in Texas. We even put what do you call it? Parental rights in the Texas Family Constitution this last session.
Mhm.
We put 7 citizens on the Judiciary Committee that sanctions judges when you write a grievance. And all 50 states have the same committee. I think there's one on my Facebook page where I'm in a red suit and I went in front of it's called the SCJC. It's the Committee for Sanctioning Judges or whatever, Judicial Misconduct. And I told him, I'm like, look, you have the opportunity right now to do what you need to do. And if not, someone's going to change what you have to do. And so I walked out of that meeting with in front of them, and I'm like, you know what? Something needs to happen. And I'm part of Texans for Judicial Accountability. And so we came out with a bill to put 7 citizens on that committee because every one of them on the committee was a lawyer or a judge to sanction judges. And we looked
Mhm.
into the percentages that they sanctioned them, and it was less than 0.01%. So we're not getting any help from them. So now we have 7 citizens on there. I volunteered to be one of the first 7, but my governor hasn't got back to us on that one. I doubt they're going to do that one.
They,
Can you
they think,
imagine?
yeah, oh my gosh, that's even more unbiased than the lawyers. They're just like, this guy's out for blood. He is
Yeah.
Jaws.
Yeah. So, when you say that one person can't do something, I was just like anyone that's listening to this. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school. I lived what you lived in family court. I went through all the stuff. I jumped through all the hoops. But at the end of this, none of that's going to help any of us. And at some point, we have to change the law to to fix this problem. And each one of my bills fix. You can pick any one of my bills, and I guarantee you, every person that you talk to when they read one through 10, one of those bills would have helped 90% of their problem in family court before they even got there. And they're really good bills. And what I've done is I've made it super easy. You just go to robertgarza.us, pick which state you're from, pick a bill that you want, and it's already formatted. There's an email that you just put your name and your senator or House rep's name on it. It tells them a little bit about the bill and that you want a Zoom call, 15 to 20-minute Zoom call. Then it gives them background about the bill and then the one-page bill itself. Literally, I mean, we have 30 bills right now in multiple states just because I'm training people just like you and your audience to do this. And all it is an email. And then when you show up to the Zoom, I pop into the Zoom with you. You tell your senator and House rep what the problem was. My ex is making false allegations, and this time taken time back bill would have fixed it. And then I tell them about the time taken time back, or if they have interference with child custody, same thing. And then the senator or House rep more than likely just takes the bill because it fixes the problem. They didn't have to experience it, but you're their constituent. You explained what you went through and how this would fix it. I can show them the stats on how many people are going through this, the fiscal notes and everything else the language that they understand, and it just goes right in.
So it's people in the individual states of they're the constituents of the representatives, and you're
Mhm.
like, hey, I will team up with you. I have all the work is done. You
Yep.
can take this. I just need you to be the person that initiates it, and I'll come back you up.
Yep. And
Genius.
I've already written it. It's already amended in your code. It literally fits right where I say it is. And it shows the senator or house rep, and they're not used, nobody does this. Like when I was looking for someone to write a bill for me, they were going to charge $10,000.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's crazy. I'll figure this out just like I did everything else. And I figured it out. In Texas, it went through unanimous, bipartisan the first time, and the governor signed off on it. And when it went through, the governor signed off and made it law on Father's Day.
Mhm.
It just happened that way. That's why I think this whole thing is, it's all God, all of it. As a human being, how can I write laws? Who gave me the power to do this? But you all actually have the same power. You have the same thing. There's nothing different about me that you don't have, other than for you to send an email to your legislator and get this ball rolling.
I love that, man. I love that. I couldn't agree more. I was an electrical engineer. No business doing anything that I'm doing now, as far as everyone else says.
Yep.
But it's a calling. Things happened in your life, things happened in my life that led me in the direction and you in the direction that we went. And look at what you've accomplished.
And I'm just one person. I said a long time ago that, I asked God to please not let this be for nothing. Be careful what you wish for. That's all I could say. I mean, this has been, I could not even imagine this being in the place that I'm at now with everything that has happened. And like I said, be careful what you wish for because he doesn't give you more than you can handle. But man, it gets trying a lot of days.
Yeah, we have this question that we have guys answer typically towards the end of all of the work that we do with them because it's very difficult to answer this question, especially with guys in the beginning of like, what do you want? If you could wish for something, what would it be? And it's funny when you look at all of the stories written about genies and answering wishes, they all end pretty terribly for the people that get the wishes. And I think the lesson in that is be careful what you wish for. You
Mhm.
have to be very, very descriptive and precise and understand what you're actually asking for when you go down these routes. So it's really funny, man. So do you on top of writing all these laws and going in front of all the legislature and everybody and doing that work, are you helping people like on a person by person basis with their own cases or just like doing anything in that way or you're like that's not my like I don't have the capacity to do that or what does that look like?
So right now, the robertgarza.us that you go to has all the bills on there, and they're very easy to find. And so I feel that it is your God-given right, and you as a citizen to be able to exercise your rights as even as a parent. And every one of my bills I wrote for free. It costs nobody anything. You can come join the team. It costs you absolutely nothing. There are no membership fees. There's no ongoing anything. Do I need the money? Absolutely 100% I do. But I just don't think that's okay. Like it morally to me, I should not charge people for this. And so all of it's free. You can join the team. I have Monday and Wednesday Zoom meetings. On Tuesdays, we actually pay a therapist to come to our support group, and anybody on Tuesday evenings can talk basically to a support group and a therapist. And I don't know of any groups that have a therapist that they hire to come talk to their followers or anyone else. Like I don't know anyone doing it, but we're doing it, and that comes out of our pocket. The um, the only other way, so that's all free. Now there is one thing on the website to pay for, and that's how I make money to be able to do a lot of this stuff. Is that it has on there a 30-minute, 1 hour weekday, and then it's a little bit more for after hours and weekends and stuff like that. But if you want help with your case, I can help you streamline that. In fact, I suggest that you even get your lawyer on the phone or on the Zoom if you want. But if you don't, it's not necessary. I can speak English good enough, like, to dumb it down. And not saying that people are dumb, but they don't, if you don't speak legalese, it's totally different. But I can streamline that case to where you're not in court and you can get out of court very fast. I wish someone would have done this while I was around, but strategy wise, I can work with your lawyer to do it. People have me come into their cases all the time, just to educate the judge on the laws or why someone went through something because I went through it. I'm changing laws now, so I'm basically an expert being in family court for 16 years, and I've been on Dr. Phil, I've been in documentaries. I don't know if have you ever seen We the Parents?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's on YouTube. Watch We the Parents. It's an amazing documentary for all of your viewers that, they try to explain this and it sounds like it's some conspiracy theory or family court. They're looking at them like they're crazy. This documentary can explain all of the failures of family court and why it's doing what it's doing right now and the need for change in 50 minutes. And it's a very well professional documentary.
Beautiful. I love it. So for all the guys that are listening to this, if they're going through any issues with their court cases, their battles, we'll have a link in the description here for you guys. You can reach out to Robert and get him on your team because it could save you somewhere around the ballpark of $697,000, I think.
Yes. And most people don't really even need more than 30 minutes to an hour. Like I
Right.
can literally figure out your case and tell you what to do step by step in 30 minutes to an hour.
I love that, man. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful. I'm so thankful to have met you and to have this as like a resource that I can send the guys to. Because I've got no answers for that, nor do I want to be that guy, honestly. So to have someone like yourself that I know can get the job done and have our guys' backs,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, man.
The other thing is I can write a bill to change the law and that's where, I don't even know what my hourly rate should be. If I can write every 2 hours a bill, and I'm still writing these bills, by the way, I have about 15. I only have 10 written so far, and there's 500 on the website, but I have about five more that I'm doing for the Guardian ad litem, for a couple other things. What is your hourly rate? Like the time taken, time back in Texas, I passed, it passed in 6 months, but that bill was written in less than 2 hours. So that affects 30 million Texans. What is your rate when you can affect change that much? But those bills are there. All you have to do is make an email or a phone call to your legislator and get that change done. And it costs you absolutely nothing.
This is the big mission to have people in each state that can help you get these into place.
Yes, that is what the need is for. But the bill's already written, and and your legislators love it because you're giving them a gift wrapped bill that is already done for them. All they have to do is turn it over to Ledge Council and give it what do you call it, a bill number, and then you can go testify on it, and everybody else. You don't need a team to do this. Every one of my bills that have gone into a state, there's no teams. You are your own person to send that email and that. Now, when you go to join the team on robertgarza.us, we also put you in a Facebook Messenger group. There's people in all 50 states are there, and now a lot of the international people are there too. But everybody's in their own, all of California, here's all the advocates there. New Jersey, here's all the advocates there. Once you get that bill number, now here's where I've been able to um, stop the opposition. So whenever you and I, let's just say you put a bill number or the bill to your legislator, you don't go back and tell the group that what legislator it was. You just say, hey, I have a sponsor for time taken, time back. You don't tell them who it is. Now, when that legislator turns it into a bill number and they submit it to the legislature, now it's public at that point. But we tell our team, hey, and they usually don't tell you until 3 days before the hearing to hear the bill. So you get your team together and then you go testify for it. Now, the opposition, think about it. I have 500 bills, 10 bills in each state. They literally every day have to go into every state to search for these bills to see if they're there or not. And they only have 3 days to find them before testimony to try and see if they're there. So I don't, when you see me go somewhere, you don't see me publicize where I'm going. I just say I need funds and donations to, for airfare or something else to get somewhere. But I won't tell people where I'm going until after I've already testified and I'm out.
You're on
But it
top.
stops the opposition from being able to find it.
Yeah, you're on top secret missions. So for the people that are a part of the team, do they need to be people that have a story to share and have like their own
No,
experiences, or it's just people that care?
no, just people that you find this could have helped you, even if you're out of the system already. Submit it to your legislator, whatever, and say this could have helped me not go through what I went through. My kids are 20, 30 years old now. They don't talk to me. They're aged out, they're whatever. I went through this, but this would have stopped before it started.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm telling
awesome.
you, it sounds like the craziest thing that it's that easy. It is 1,000% that easy. And then once you tell them the one bill, they're like, well, what else do you have? What else do you have? I can tell you this now because they're already bill numbers, but we had a state. We met with them on time taken, time back, and after we told them all about the other bills, they're like, "What else do you have? What else do you have?" They took 5 bills, just one state, by themselves, on one phone call.
So it's just you just need people to step up.
They need to be their senator or their House rep, their state senator and their state House rep. I made that mistake when I did this. I went all the way to President Trump. And he's like, I can't do anything for you. He's like, it's a great bill, but I can't, I don't pass laws. And I'm like, crap. So he's like, you need to go to your senator or your House rep. So I actually went to Ted Cruz and, but he's my US senator. He's like, this is a state issue. This is not a US issue. Like, he's like, I understand, but he's like, but what the bill that you're talking about, that's a state. He's like, you need to go to your state rep or your state senator, not your US Congress, So I went all the way to the top to come all the way back down, but ended up passing the bill. So
Lessons learned along the way.
yeah.
That's great, man. Anything else you want to share before we wrap things up?
Just that we can't have a strong nation without strong families, and these bills will absolutely strengthen our nation. And they're relevant because it's going to be the same problem and this solution until that problem is solved. And until we pass this, it's going to keep happening the same thing over and over and over to multiple people. And now that I've done this enough, it's actually an international issue and a human rights issue. We found that this is the same issue in all countries, not just the US. This is not a US issue. This is a human rights issue. Australia is worse than the US at this. Canada is worse right now than we are. We're just experiencing, but it's going to get worse if we don't do something about it.
Well said. Well, you heard it, everybody. So if you care about this, if you've been affected by this, the website will be linked to this episode. Go get involved. Go make a difference. Instead of us just all complaining about this and talking about how it's a problem. Let's step up and start fixing the problem as good, strong men should.